Hello everyone, it is IRP, your eco-friendly super scooter warrior for the weekend. Now, right below me, I have the Gogoro SuperSport. This is going to be Gogoro's flagship model in Singapore as of now. This is going to be the first foray Gogoro is putting into Singapore outside of Taiwan. And there are going to be some differences because of the kind of regulations we have. And if you'd like to learn more, watch all the way to the end of the video and I'll cover a bit more in detail. So without ado, let's go. I will start by introducing some technical aspects of the Gogoro SuperSport for the tech nerds most interested in this sort of thing. The scooter comes with a permanent magnet synchronous motor or PMSM that is liquid cooled together with its MOSFET controller. A PMSM basically is an AC equivalent to brushless motors, and when plugged into an oscilloscope will show a sinusoidal wave. This means when modulating your throttle on the Gogoro SuperSport, it simulates something akin to a gradual delivery of power like you would find on ICE engines. The SuperSport's motor is able to put out a peak power of 7.2 kilowatts and 27.15 Newton meters of torque, almost at an instant to the wheels through its carbon fiber belt drivetrain. Because Gogoro scooters are for now software restricted due to regulations, I and even the marketing manager were pretty unsure whether the peak power was something the SuperSport could even achieve. But based on the readouts I captured on a couple of rides, I can safely say the figures are pretty legit. A lot of you may be worried at the peak power figures. 7.2 kilowatts is basically in the performance ballpark of 125cc bottom of the barrel scooters you would find in the Japanese market like the Suzuki Address 125 and Yamaha Jog 125. Singapore's smaller scooters are usually 150cc's, putting out 11 to 12 kilowatts of peak power. But the truth is, as an EV, it produces more than double the torque of 150cc scooters like the NMAX or Aerox in an instant. You will pretty much feel like you are riding on something larger like an X-Max that has more than 3 times the power of the Gogoro SuperSport on paper. And the Gogoro SuperSport is indeed very fast. I could beat literally any sub 300cc motorcycle in a traffic light to traffic light drag race. And the claimed 92 km per hour max speed isn't fast either, with the speedo clocking in at 103 km per hour for me at my peak. Once accounting for the 5% margin of error, it is pretty damn close. Handling wise, there is not much one can say about the Gogoro SuperSport. It only weighs 125 kilograms with the batteries, 14-inch front and 13-inch rear wheels with Michelin City grips for stock tires with a wheelbase of 1306mm. Because all tiny scooters along the line of the SuperSport like the Jog and Address can pretty much turn on a dime by virtue of their product category, its capabilities are pretty much at the ceiling of what a motorized two-wheeler can do. That said, unlike lightweight ICE scooters that tend to suffer from an anemic engine and powertrain, the Gogoro SuperSport affords the rider with an incredible level of fine control at any speed by virtue of being an electric vehicle with instant torque and throttle feedback, which as of now there is no comparison in nearly any market worldwide. The SuperSport gets 4-pot caliper disc brakes with CBS, combined braking system, and steel braided hoses. That said, the CBS on the SuperSport isn't that sophisticated and you still need to use both brake levers to actually stop. Single lever pulls on the front or rear brake lever generally only works for fine speed control when doing things like U-turns. The Singaporean model doesn't get ABS, which will be sorely missed of course, though this isn't a real deal breaker for me. The suspension on the SuperSport is also in the ballpark of 125cc Japanese scooters. Yes, it has preload and rebound damping adjustments, but they are unlikely to be used by the average customer profile looking to buy one of these. It doesn't have as much travel and plushness as even the most basic 150cc scooter found in Singapore like Aerox's. You could get away as a single rider weighing in under 100 kilos, or maybe an average female rider with a female pillion, but with two men with a combined weight of 160 kilograms or more, the SuperSport will sag so much it won't clear many speed bumps without stiffening the preload to the maximum. Range-wise, I was getting an average of about 75 kilometers on a fully charged battery with any level of reasonable riding while weighing 80 kilograms, including all the things I usually carry on me. The caveat here is that the actual range at optimum performance is slightly lower than that at around 67.5 kilometers, as Gogoro scooters will restrict power output at 10% battery charge remaining, going into a crawl home mode. With my weight, this means I am stuck riding the scooter back to the nearest battery station at 58 kilometers per hour maximum, with very limited acceleration. The Gogoro SuperSport was netting me an efficiency of about 35 to 40 watt hours per kilometer on the 43.2 volt batteries. Based on the current most basic rates Cycle and Carriage are offering for their battery plans, this amounts to about 6 cents per kilometer travel. For comparison, an NMAX with a fuel efficiency of 45 kilometers per liter running RON 95 petrol at 290 per liter will cost you about 6.4 cents per kilometer travel. To be perfectly honest, while I was filming the scooter, I did have a modicum of range anxiety, what with having to travel to further flung parts of Singapore to be able to film without the distraction of passers-by. However, logically, if I had been using it as part of my daily 5-kilometer commute each way, it's not really much of an issue. Considering all of Gogoro scooters, and in fact, the large part of the EV market is mostly software based, this section of our review is going to be longer than in most other reviews I've done. First of all, instead of a traditional keyed access, all of Gogoro scooters, including the SuperSport, use either a key card or once paired to your smartphone, that as well. I don't think it is as convenient as the RFID based tokens that Honda uses on the modern supercar, since you need to fish out the card and tap it on the scooter's reader, or fish out your mobile phone, open the app and then unlock it. Other functional based features the SuperSport has includes a tire pressure monitoring system, a reverse assist button to help with backpedaling up slopes if you're stuck at the gantry, an auto-lock timer once you get off, automatic turn signal cancelling, a low speed warning that beeps whenever you're slow enough that the motor doesn't whine so pedestrians can hear you, your typical hazard light switch, regenerative braking, a smart ride mode that tracks your riding behavior and modulates the power accordingly, and last of all, a boost mode that increases power delivery during acceleration. Apart from that, there are other cosmetic customization features for Gogoro scooters via their app once paired with your mobile phone, mostly with regards to the light colors on your dashboard and the sound packs that plays for warning sounds and when you activate turn signals, and the damn thing playing a birthday song for you on your birthday. For the sake of my sanity, I had left all the sounds off by putting the bike on silent mode permanently, but I assume there will be people out there who find it cute enough to keep it. The Gogoro app also has a suite of analytics baked into it to allow you to track the condition of your Gogoro scooter regardless of make. as well as the performance of your last ride, including max and average speed as well as peak power. With regards to the regenerative braking, the app warns you once not to max it out in wet weather as it may cause your bike to slip. However, I found the regen braking to be very soft even at max settings, that there is absolutely no reason whatsoever to turn it down at all. The boost mode also had no appreciable impact on lowering the SuperSport's range as far as I was concerned. And unless you are a very inexperienced rider who wants a gentler ride, there is no reason to ever not have it on at all times. The Gogoro SuperSport also comes with an underseat space it shares with its dual batteries. The 25-litre trunk is pretty modest in size. You could fit a half helmet and a pair of gloves, maybe a bottle of water, but a full-faced helmet will not fit inside, much less together with a jacket. But for small-sized groceries, I believe it to be more than enough. It does also have a little cubby on the left side of the scooter that is big enough for a mid to small-sized smartphone and a USB socket within to charge your devices with. Beside the seat, the maintenance access panels can be opened without any tools whatsoever, being held by strong neodymium magnets. In fact, the Gogoro SuperSport doesn't even come with a toolkit for new owners. With the panels removed, one can top up the coolant and gear oil rather easily on the left, and find the access panel for the battery and ECU on the right. Adjusting the preload can also be done through a window once these covers are removed, and the fuse box is located under the footrest. You'll notice that the access to electricals require a bit more effort to get to, and that is because Gogoro highly recommends against messing with any of them unless you have experience with EV controllers and an OBD, which I generally agree with because this is not as simple as tampering with the electricals on a traditional motorcycle. Lastly, the dashboard itself is pretty big and easy to read the displayed speed, trip meter, odometer, remaining range, time, and battery level. The only issue here is that the backlight isn't very strong on the display and it's not shaped or positioned in a way so the screen is shaded. So unless the sky is overcast or you are in the cover of darkness, it is nearly unreadable. The SuperSport is for the most part pretty comfortable at low speeds. I stand at 177 centimeters tall with an 85 centimeter inseam. And when I occupy the entire seat, I can comfortably put both legs on the footboard with space between my knees and the fairing. I could keep my legs at a nice 90-degree angle bend, my back kept straight, and my arms loose while I held on to the handlebars. Pillions get a solid bar to hold onto behind them and pretty wide passenger pegs as well. The seat is very wide and spacious for the rider, typical in most scooters, so this isn't surprising, though there isn't really much space for a larger pillion. Thankfully, the upholstery is soft, which is going to be very important as I segue into talking about the ride quality of the Gogoro SuperSport. The Gogoro SuperSport doesn't have the best suspension as I mentioned earlier. It isn't the most plush and easily bottoms out when hitting speed bumps at speeds that the typical scooter in Singapore like the NMAX could laugh at. And the front end tends to shake quite badly at speeds greater than 50 km per hour. The stock mirrors themselves are pretty big and offer a modestly wide field of view. However, the stocks are just too short to be practical. You can't really see directly behind your own body without shifting left or right. The kickstand and center stand are pretty easy to reach with my feet. The batteries themselves are also pretty hefty for the capacity they hold, though most of it is due to the amount of circuitry included within each package for battery management. That said, battery swapping was still a pretty simple affair that took me less than 1 minute to do before moving off. For those who know me, I'm a sucker for weird looking shit. People tend to hate the general design of EVs unless they are more tech bros than motorcyclists. But I generally do think designs like the BMW CE02 and CE04 are pretty refreshing. I mean, there are quite a lot of ugly shit out in the market like Zero motorcycles. But the Gogoro SuperSport thankfully isn't one of them. The colours available for the SuperSport in Singapore right now being a sort of pearlescent purple and pearlescent green are classy without looking overly masculine or feminine. The lines are smooth and soft in contrast to the usually harsh boxy lines EV manufacturers in recent years have chosen to adopt, especially the Chinese. Gogoro has chosen quite smartly not to be too exotic with their visual styling. It is welcoming to the eyes without looking like some rickety old crap Nana used to get around with. However, despite the SuperSport being in the same price bracket as, say, a Vespa Sprint 150 or Primavera, the Gogoro SuperSport has nowhere near the level of polish and finish as the Italian scooters. Almost everything on the bodywork is plasticky and hollow to the touch. The controls and buttons are not as crisp under your fingers. Depressing one brake lever will cause the other to jump up due to the shared hydraulics in the CBS. Overall, it feels more like a toy and I just can't take it seriously. The lights and sounds it emits as part of the aforementioned features for the dashboard and warning systems only serve to highlight my point.
Do you think I was going to do a sound test? It's electric, there is no sound. So a lot of these monkeys, they are pretty used to cars in general. But when I'm riding my combustion engine motorcycles in this part of the woods, they usually immediately scatter upon hearing the sound of the engines. But you see, as you can see, it doesn't scatter them as much even when I ride past. They don't really scatter and just make space for the bike. They just carry on with their own merry day. They can hear the whining, but they are not shocked by any of the noise.
Off the top of my head, I can only think of three kind of profiles that would really willingly go out on a limb to buy a Gogoro SuperSport as a private owner. The first being the early adopter tech bros, the kind that would splurge $6,000 on the latest top-of-the-line RTX 5090 video card Nvidia is putting out.
Shut up and take my money!
Because they like revolutionary tech and want to be a part of that history, regardless of the cost. The second group are most likely people like me who own multiple motorcycles and just need a reliable backup machine to get to work in case their usual ride doesn't start in the morning, either because of poor maintenance or aging electricals.
Car broke down.
The last profile that would be keen on one of these would most likely be the princesses that want affordable private transportation but put in absolutely none of the effort required in maintaining a traditional ICE engine. Otherwise, most of the other practical use cases tend to be within the sphere of short range, food deliveries and postal workers due to the limited range of the Gogoro SuperSport. You would notice that despite being a high performer, I have not indicated rider profiles just looking for the most bang for their buck. Most of these profiles imply people with a higher than average disposable income, and that is because at a machine price of 9,800 Singaporean dollars, the Gogoro SuperSport ends up being in the ballpark of expensive luxury scooters like the Vespa Primavera and Aprilia SRGT. That said, the running costs on these things, while more expensive than a traditional cable-charged EV, is still a lot less than an ICE. You still need to deal with coolant and gear oil, but there's no need to deal with engine oil, filters, spark plugs, gaskets, valves or fuel lines. Even the carbon fiber belt drive will pretty much last an owner the entire lifespan of the vehicle. Despite the apparent lack of range, all the Gogoro scooters available are far more cost effective for users who are heavy users traveling in city traffic. Not only is the upfront cost better amortized over longer periods of use due to the lack of maintenance requirements, Gogoro's energy subscriptions are cheaper per kilometer the larger the monthly plan you purchase, and electric motors tend to be more efficient at lower speeds compared to ICE engines. This brings me to my last point. While you do buy and own the Gogoro scooters, the batteries remain under the care of Gogoro themselves. Your energy plan is merely a leasing arrangement for the batteries as well as the energy within. The best way to view your relationship with a Gogoro scooter is to see it like any other modern electronic appliance with you, like a smart TV or your mobile phone. You own the device, but the services behind them are just that, services. Once this fundamental mindset is understood, it is not that terrible, since the burden of battery degradation, as is with every electronic product, is no longer your business. Though the rate at which Gogoro cycles old batteries out of circulation in the Singaporean market is still up for debate. And it is not as if Cycle and Carriage are unaware of many of these concerns when I raised it up to them with the consumer's point of view I provided. It seems the Gogoro brand in Singapore will attempt to address the market with plans for adding more value-added provisions to buyers to smooth things over. As I mentioned earlier in the opening, Gogoro scooters are fundamentally different from the ones offered in Taiwan due to Singaporean regulations. While Taiwanese owners are able to personally charge their batteries at a wall socket at home with a separately purchased cable and dock, neither the dock nor the port on the bike itself is offered in Singapore due to fire safety regulations. Even certain electronics packages like a sport mode and traction control are not available in Singapore at the moment, though that is also up in the air and could be changed in future as both of these features are, for the most part, software. So, what do you guys think about the Gogoro SuperSport electric scooter? Are you going to be one of the first few people in Singapore that is going to make that transition from an ICE engine to an electric vehicle? Let me know down in the comments below. I would always be very happy to hear your thoughts on the pros and cons of transitioning from petrol-based vehicles to electric-based vehicles. I mean, I do have my own interests, my own concerns as to how this would fit into my life. But I would like to hear more from the rest of you what your thoughts are on this topic. So if you enjoyed this video, do remember to give me a like, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all the YouTube jazz, and I'll see you next time. This is RP signing off. Bye bye.